Rose petals can often look a bit complex, but really there's just one simple principle to follow. Hi, Annika here. I'll help you understand curls in petals through some simple sketches, and then we'll paint some too. I've drawn a simple rose petal on a plastic sleeve sheet and have cut around it widely so that I have something to hold on to. The key is that the petal is a shape with a continuous border all the way around, and the fold is extra. I'll repeat, extra. It's not a line. Once we get our head around separating the fold and the border, it becomes second nature. By using my plastic method, we can clearly see where the lines go and transform something that looks so complex into an easy two-dimensional sketch. I'm using my blue Prisma pencil to draw a basic shape of a petal, with just an easy fold coming straight over itself. The fold is in blue because it's not a real line. And now what I do is I repeat the shape on top, and in a continuous line, there's our petal. Of course, we can draw the top line afterwards, but it's not part of the border of the petal. Now we'll do another one with just a little bit of a difference. And instead of having the fold right over itself, let's move it a little bit to the side. And what happens now is I repeat the shape, but now we have a roll, and we keep continuing the line. It's a continuous line, and go tap, 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 and around again. So if you get to this point and you get stuck, just let your pencil go by itself and it'll work it out for you. So here's a pretty little petal. Now for the next one, it is going to turn away from us. So again, the normal petal is like so. In this example, the petal is folding backwards. We don't see the fold over, but it's still important because we end up following the border to get back to where we started from. Here is the side of the petal, and it rolls under, and it travels quietly here and goes over because that's what the roll is doing, and it'll come around. So ultimately our petal will look like that. There we have it. Now sometimes, especially if your rose is looking up a little bit, the fold goes up. Like this petal here. We have the little fold that comes towards us, and then we just have the rest of the petal. There's the fold and there's the petal, one continuous line. So this here will be shadowed. Or the fold might be coming towards us, in which case the V is a dip downwards. But really, it doesn't change anything. We still have continuous line that works its way around the petal. It's coming over and across. That is all one continuous line. At this point, we can rub out that little bit in there. And then, of course, we have our shadow down below. And a few directional lines. And there's our petal. Okay, and now we can paint them. Of course, when you have one of these and it's looking backwards, then it might be like this, but all you'll see is that, and maybe just a little roll over, which will be hiding those flaps going over. I'm using a flat brush at the moment. This is a size 10 comb memory point. Any small flat brush will be fine, and I'll show you why. I'm picking up a little bit of quinacridone rose and a little bit of pyrrole orange, and it's just easier to make points and flats. We're practicing the way to do this, so I am painting in the fold first. This is just good practice for later on. You paint in the fold and then you can paint in the whole shape of the petal. While it's still very damp, I pick up a buttery mix of the quinacridone rose and pyrrole orange. See the pencil line there for the fold? If I do a line like this, it's gone over the pencil line, which will give me a little bit of shadow underneath the roll and on the roll itself. And it'll be softer. So now I'm just going to leave that, pull out a little highlight at the top here. Now let's do the next one. This time I'm just going to do it like this. See how you can turn the flat brush and make a beautiful little roll there? And just paint in the whole petal. And I'm going to add a little bit of nickel titanate yellow here down the bottom for a little bit of variation. And while it's still quite damp, there is still a little bit of shine on there, and I don't mind that because otherwise the paint doesn't seem to spread. But you do have to be careful that your paint is very creamy. The wetter the paint is on your paper, the drier your brush has to be. Picking up a little bit of very creamy paint, I'm coming in here over. Just going to let that dry and pull out a little highlight up the top. Taking a little bit of very, very diluted tea consistency paint, and I'm going to paint the whole petal. See how the flat brush can make lovely little curves and rolls? This petal is facing backwards. Here I have a size 3 round brush, and with slightly creamier paint, just pulling in some little lines, and we'll come back to that. Now for the next one, again I'm going to paint the whole petal. Actually, I'm washing my brush now, and I'm only going to continue this with water just to make it different. And add a little bit of yellow down the bottom. Now I need to pick up some creamy paint again, and I'm going for my rose and a little bit of the pyrrole orange, and I want to create the shadow in there. So I'm basically just going over these lines and pulling in a few little details in there and just leaving it. We're coming back to it. Now for the next one, this one there's a point going up, this one there's a point going down. So with this one, let's just paint it in water. See how my water is slightly pink? It's so that I can see it. And now we can just drop in some colors, but I want to get a little bit of color over this edge, because that's very important, because it creates that little bit of shadow that we want. Otherwise it looks too flat. I've used a dryer on these petals to help them along. My favorite brush for the next step is a 1/4 inch dagger. This is a 1/4 inch dagger striper by S&S Tollmaster. Let's move on to the first one here, and we need to put in a little bit of shadow just under there. So with my quinacridone rose and that little bit of pyrrole orange in it, I'm adding a little touch of neutral tint. Here I have some thick orange and some thick quinacridone rose. I'm washing my brush. I want my brush to be wet but not dripping, and I pick up a little bit just with the tip. And now I'm going to use the whole blade of my dagger brush and create this little shadow in there. If you'd like to see how I use my dagger brush to its full potential, have a look at the video up here in the corner. And I'm adding a little bit more of the quinacridone rose. So this will be the darkest part. It's a little bit too thick. It's got to be just right. You've got to be able to move the paint. There, and a little bit of a tear in the petal there. All right, and now let's do the next one where we have a little bit of shadow just under there. That's all we need for now. And moving on to this one, I always want to make sure that I've got a little bit of creamy paint to dip into. Now I've washed my brush again, coming in for this darker paint, and I'm starting here. Might put in a little bit more in there. And there's another one. The key to all these folding petals is to remember that the border of the petal is a continuous line and you need to get around it. So when you don't know where to go, just think, I need to get back to where I started from. And then mark the fold where you want to put it, and then draw in the flap, and then add a little bit of the petal. I hope you got some value out of all this. If you'd like to see more, join me next week when we put together all these petals and create a beautiful rose. And in the meantime, if you'd like to brush up on your curling and folding leaves, be sure to watch this video here. It'll make all the difference.